So, what happens when you have an unstoppable force meet up with an immovable object? Well, we're about ready to find out when the Orlando Guardians face off against the San Antonio Brahmas this Sunday. Welcome back to the Brahma Bulletin, your number one source for all things San Antonio Brahmas. In today's video, I'm going to be doing the Week 2 preview against the Orlando Guardians in Orlando, the first of a three-game road trip for the Brahmas and the first game against a division opponent. Both teams are 0-1. Looking at the standings, as I said, both teams are 0-1. This is San Antonio's first road game, and this is Orlando Guardians' home opener. Looking at the Guardians' offensive leaders, we will see that they are fourth in yards per game, sixth in rushing yards per game, third in passing yards per game, and dead last in points scored per game. Their leaders for passing is Quinton Dormady with 142 yards. Rushing yards leader is Maine Martin with 41 yards. And the receiving yards leader is Andrew Jamil with 80 yards. Defensively, Orlando's eighth in yards per game, fifth in rushing yards per game, seventh in passing yards per game, and dead last in points allowed per game. Their defensive leaders when it comes to tackles is Nick Coe with 6 tackles, and their sacks leader is Jacoby Jones with 2. Moving on to the Brahmas. Offensively, we are second in the league in yards per game, first in rushing yards per game, fifth in passing yards per game, and seventh in points per game. Our passing yards leader is Jack Cohn with 207 yards. Our rushing yards leader is Kalen Balaj with 84 yards, and he just happens to be the league leader in rushing yards. And our receiving yards leader is Jalen Tolliver with 49 yards. Defensively, we are in the top 3 in every single category. Second in yards per game, third in rushing yards per game, third in passing yards per game, and third in points allowed per game. Our defensive leaders when it comes to tackles is Drew Lewis with 5 tackles, and sacks, our leader is Michael Scott with 2 yards. And no, that is not the office Michael Scott. All right, my 3 keys to victory. Number 1, we need to let Jack Cohn out of the bull gate, meaning we need to let him throw the ball down the field. Last game against the Battlehawks, it was a lot of dinking and dunking and wide receiver screens that really didn't work. So, yes, he did throw the ball quite a bit. He did have quite a bit of completions, but he only had 207 yards. So, yards per throw was very, very minuscule. And we need to open up the playbook and throw the ball down yard, loosen up that defense because they're going to crowd the line of scrimmage and they're going to focus on Kalen Balaj and Jacques Patrick and stopping the run. So to prevent that, we need to chuck that ball down the field. Number 2, our defense needs to learn to close out games. Against the Battlehawks, we were dominant for 58 minutes, but we needed to be dominant for another 2 minutes, and we weren't. So I like the way the defense looked last week. You can see statistically, we are very good in the top 3 in the league. We just need to continue on throughout the entire game. And number 3, our running game needs to continue what it has started. We are number 1 in the rushing yards per game, and I believe we will continue that, and we need to continue that. All right, now for some game predictions. First, I think Jack Cohen will pass for 2 touchdowns with 0 turnovers. Last game, he had 2 turnovers. I think here he will have no turnovers. Number 2, Kalen Balaj will have over 100 yards rushing. I believe he's going to be the first XFL runner this season to rush over 100 yards. He was close last week, and I think against the Guardians, he will make it. Number 3, the defense will hold Orlando to under 250 total offensive yards. Orlando looked pretty abysmal against the Roughnecks, and the Roughnecks do have a very good defense under Wade Phillips. But I think our defense is good too. And I think that with Orlando sticking with Paxton Lynch as our starting quarterback, we'll have a shot of keeping them under control. And speaking of Paxton Lynch, my 4th game prediction is the defense will sack him 5 times and will have 1 defensive score. The Roughnecks sacked Orlando's quarterbacks 7 times last week. I think we will sack him 5 times, and we will have at least 1 defensive score. So write that down. All right, now for the moment we've all been waiting for, my final score prediction. So drum roll, please. Brahmas 21, Guardians 9.
And that's it. That's the video. So what do you think about my predictions? Am I onto something or am I on something? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you again for watching. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you. And until we see each other next time, keep your horns pointed upward and forward, San Antonio.